Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're excited to have you all here with us today. This is our book launch. I'm excited. to have my co-authors here with me. These are some amazing co-authors that I have. But go ahead and be sure to share the broadcast. Make sure I invite someone to watch it as well. Tag some people. Let us know where you're tuning in from so we can know who all will be watching. And so we thank you all for tuning in with us today. So I just want to go ahead and say, publicly a special thank you to my co-authors. Without you guys, it wouldn't have been possible. And you guys ran with the vision. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, your kind words, your encouragement, and you just were ready to just run. And I believe as leaders, one of the things that we should be able to do is to collaborate with other leaders to go ahead and be able to just show that you could, of course, you share a vision, but most importantly, you're able to go ahead and just impact others as well. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with Prophetess Patricia Shirley over there. We're gonna start with Leslin because Leslin, I forget you are the first chapter in the book. So let's start with you. I want you to tell us about your chapter. Yes, you tell us about your chapter, your experience, your leadership journey, and if you had any fight while trying to complete this book project.
The fight. Oh my God. Let's start there with the fight. Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for reaching out for me to collaborate on this project on emerging leaders. I think this is such a timely project, especially about what is going on in our world right now. And at the time we were in the pandemic, and I think we're still navigating the end of this pandemic. And so the world is in a place where we're looking for leaders to emerge, whether that's current leaders emerging in strategies and vision and leading people, or even new leaders coming to the platform. So I think this book is so timely for where we are right now. So my chapter is on the purpose of leadership, and in the chapter I talk about the responsibility of leadership. I didn't even know I was the first chapter. You should have told me that before we came live. I might have said some
Yes,
things in the
you are
background.
the first one, the power of leadership.
Right. The pressure of being first. But in the chapter, I really talk about just the responsibility of leadership. Oftentimes we see leaders and we don't understand the weight of having to make a decision for the masses. Um, Even a weight of being a leader in your household, having to make the decision for more than you want. You have now the responsibility of your children, the responsibility of your spouse. That's a weight. You don't want to make a careless decision. And so sometimes we talk about the gratification of leadership, that person being in the spotlight, and we see a lot of that. But oftentimes people don't sit and talk about what does this responsibility look like? How do I sleep at night managing this responsibility? I was a consultant on with a firm, a private company, and I remember talking to the CEO, the president of the company, and she said to me, she said, I can't make a careless decision because hundreds of people are waiting and depending on the decision that I make. If I make a bad decision and lose this contract, someone is going home without a paycheck at the end of the day. So that's a heavy responsibility. And that's what I mentioned in my chapter. I talk about a little bit about the different ways God called leaders. And so, managing this project, Dr. Navarro, thank you for your patience because I don't know where the grace came from to finish. I may have finished late. I think I was clocking those deadlines. But there was a lot that was going on. I think at one point I said, Dr. DeVar, I just can't do this because of everything that was going on. But I do know now, hindsight, looking at the entire process and the journey and having the opportunity to be with such amazing authors. I read some of the snippet of some of the other authors and knowing that I'm appreciative and honored to be a part of this journey. So again, I thank you and I thank all of the other authors.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that was good. Talking about the power of leadership, and like you mentioned, you did talk about, like you said, some of the ways that God would have called the other leaders and what is required of them to do. And like you said, just that weight of whole leadership. A lot of people don't really understand that. They don't realize it. They just think that, okay, I have a title, but this thing comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of accountability. You are accountable to other people. You can't just move recklessly. Because like you mentioned, other people are affected by your decision. And so you have to be very, very mindful of that. And so thank you so much just for sharing some of that. Now we have Patricia Shirley. Patricia, now you talk about frontline leadership.
Yes, 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 yes. I could just really like herald what Leslyn said about not understanding like the what leaders go through. And I picked the front line because sometimes it feels like a war. It feels like a literal battle. Like you're on the front, like you're a soldier, you're getting hit at, you're getting shot at from every single way. It's the people that you're trying to help is shooting at you. It could be even those that, that you're trying to get to their next level. So every single way, sometimes it feels like a battle. And I think I picked the front line also too, because people neglect that on every level. Like you said, whether you're a mother at home with your children, whether you're on the front line at your job, whether it's ministry, it doesn't matter. You're that first, like I'll say, line of defense that people see. And often it's the leader that always gets the brunt of a lot of different things. And I also picked a topic called the public platform and the price, because I wanted people to understand too that there's a price for the elevation. There's a cost when you have to grow and you excel, and they just see the glamour, they see everything, but they don't understand the sacrifices, the long hours, the times that you can't do things that other people, they're out, they're partying, they may be hanging out, but you can't do that. So there's a cost for that. For where you want to be, there's a cost for that. The time, the effort, the study. And also too, I touched on like being overlooked, because I think at times too that although like we're leaders and things happen as you are emerging, sometimes you can even be overlooked, and it could be intentional or it cannot be intentional, right? So how do you walk through that process? What does that look like? How do you prepare for that? Because a lot of people, they kind of fall by the wayside when you go through that process where you are being overlooked. So what do you do? How do you really prepare and still keep trust and faith and pressing and going? I mean, Dr. Tabarry, you're like such a good example of everything, because you just continue to press no matter the obstacles, and you just continue to push and press. And I think a lot of times people need to hear that other people are going through those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. But I want you to talk about, you have the pain of proximity. I really need you to talk to us about that, man. I need you to share about that so people can really understand, those who may be seeking leadership, those who feel like, just like you mentioned, it's some glamorous thing when it's really not. And sometimes you don't even want to lead, but what could you do when you're called to lead? But I need you to talk to us about that, the pain of proximity, the cost of being close.
Well, it's like twofold, because sometimes you have leaders that they're called at the forefront, but then what about the leader that's in the middle? What about that person that they're not necessarily at the forefront, but they're sort of like that person who reports to that executive, that executive person. And they're the one sort of like a Mordecai to a Esther, or a Joseph, to a Pharaoh. What about that person? There's a pain in that type of proximity. There's great pain in that, because while you're not the leader, right, you don't hold the total of the vision, but you're called to support that vision. You're called to walk alongside somebody. You have to keep such a focus, because sometimes I find, people kind of go through betraying things, like betraying spirits, or a lot of times they think that they're being betrayed because people are right close to them, right next to them. But often it's a pain with that. They go through the stages of the leader. Maybe the leader's in transition, so now they're in transition. They don't have autonomy, so now they have to kind of go to the in-between. They're not the leader, so they have to go to the leader for everything. But then the people underneath them, they're like stuck in the middle of a sandwich, and they're trying to handle like, what's going on with the leader, but they're also not trying to have the people like have an uprising against them. And I think it's a pain too, because your vision, the vision that you have to have when you're close like that, you're a steward of somebody else's vision. So it's not necessarily yours, but at the same time, it has to be yours because your heart has to accept it in that way. And sometimes it's a place that seems like it's invisible too. And they may seem like they don't get the credit. They're not being seen. They may even go through things with the leader where the leader may, sometimes there could be different things they're going through. And because they're close, it's like the closer you get to the sun, you get scorched, right? And the farther away, when the rays are good, when the sun will heat us and everything like that. But if you get too close to the sun, you can get burned. And sometimes there's pain in that. The closer that you get to a leader, you see their faulty, you see the character traits, you see things you don't like, you see the humanity, and you still have to serve that vision even though you see the humanity. So that's why I call it the pain, because it's the pain of being like in between that sandwich.
That's good. You talked about like the character flaws and traits because, when you're up close, and sometimes, in some persons that could cause them not to want to serve the vision anymore because of what they see, or even expose what's really happening. Because one of the things as a leader, you have to be able to cover people.
Yes.
You have to be able to cover your leaders, especially if it's at a place where you're seeing faults, you're seeing things that they're doing, but you may not necessarily like it. So how do you deal with that? Some persons don't know literally how to deal with that. And so they end up exposing everything, or, they just don't know what to do. But what do you say to someone who may be, they may be covering someone, they're seeing their flaws, they're seeing their faults, they don't like it, they're like, you know what, I don't really know if I really want to serve this leader. Is it time for me to go? Should I expose them? How can I talk to them? Because sometimes you have some people, when you're serving leaders, you can't tell them nothing. The minute you say something, they're going to say being a rebel or being subordinate or whatever. But all you're really trying to do is to help them out, because you have some leaders, especially senior leaders, when they feel like they've been doing something for so long. If you are the emerging leader, how can you come to me and say to me that there's something that I need to work on? So how do you, if someone, I don't know, they may be watching now, they may watch the replays. I want you to talk to them just a little bit about that.
I think the first thing I would say is relationships are really important. You have to develop a relationship with people so that they know that where you're coming from, the place that you're not coming from a critical or judgmental place. Early on, I had a mentor, and I talked about this. I did a social media post, and I talked about my mentor and how she promoted me twice. We worked together. We built the company together. It was operational leadership for a healthcare facility. And she knew that I was invested. She knew that I was the type of person that would go the distance, that she could trust me. Over time, there's things that she would share with me that she didn't share with other people. I've always been favored in that way, where God has placed, leaders around me. And that's because we have to understand, as emerging leaders, like, you do see it, but at the same time, you're not denying that there's something there. But you also have to maintain your character as well, and you have to build a relationship, and relationships have to be built. You're not, it's because of where they are. Sometimes people are reluctant to let people in when they're a leader. I don't even know myself as a leader. There's people that you could give them everything. You could be the best leader in the world. You could show them a grace, mercy, and extension. And it's like they come back and they still wind up doing something to you, or and then it's hurt towards the leader, and the leader may be carrying some sort of pain towards people that they trusted. So now all those barriers have to come down. And sometimes you'll be the one, through your character and through that relationship, that'll bring those barriers down and then maintain trust. Now, I also don't believe that, obviously there's a time to speak. I believe that if you have the relationship, you will have the ear of that person. We know Esther had favor. We know Joseph had favor. There's a favor that comes when you have the character and you're willing to submit. There's a favor that will come and their ears will be open. But we have to really, I would say, develop a relationship first. I would say, make sure they know your stance, like that you're invested, because who wants to listen to somebody who, here today, going tomorrow? It's no stability. We have to have like the character traits. It's a scripture that says, how can you be entrusted with your own thing if you can't be entrusted with another man's? So you have to be entrusted with somebody else's vision even. So I think definitely relationship, maintaining your character. And also too, and if you can't, and I'll say this too, because if you're not able to do that and you get to the point where you can't do that, or you're not able to maintain, I personally believe that maybe it's time for you to transition, because I don't believe that we should be, there'll always be some sort of friction and, as you move forward. But if you come to the place where you can't get past certain things and it's really causing you serious stumbling blocks with your leader, within the company, all that kind of, if it's not changing, sometimes you do have to evaluate, is it your season to move on?
Okay, that's good. That's good. Don't worry, I can come back to you. But I want to go to Rashida. My good mentee, Rashida. So I want you to talk about your chapter. You have a metamorphosis process, balanced by trust. I want you to talk to us about your chapter, a little bit about your journey, and if you had any challenges completing your chapter.
Good night, everyone. Like Dr. Tavares said, the title of my chapter is called A Metamorphosis Process, Balanced by Trust. And in my chapter is just my personal story of the emerging leader I am today. And I compared my story, or compared my transition, to the life of a butterfly. And the butterfly has 4 stages: the egg, the caterpillar, the chrysalis, and then the adult butterfly. So in my chapter, it just depicts each stage in my life and all the things I went through at each stage, focusing primarily on the chrysalis stage, where I was not separated, but moved away from my family and my friends, and was positioned in a different area in the island which I live on, where God allowed, and God manifested a whole lot of stuff in my life during that 7 years in my chrysalis season. So most of my chapters focus on that part of my process. So that's about it. But it's focused on my personal story about my leadership journey, focusing mainly on the chrysalis part of the chapter, where God positioned me, and it was only me and him, and I only relied on him, and I allowed his work to be done in me.
Okay, so you talked about that separation part. I want you to just share a little bit more about that, because sometimes, in order to elevate or go to the next level, separation is needed. And sometimes it's from your family, not that it's something is wrong, but that's the process that just has to happen. So I just want you to just share a little bit about that, or talk about, like, let's say someone is watching now, and for them, they may be kind of dealing with that type of situation, or they're not sure, well, should I separate? Here's a nice opportunity, but it requires me, because especially we island folks, we like to be home, we very family oriented, so talk to them about that. What should they do? What, if they're struggling to even make the decision to go to the next level, how could they make that decision? And just provide them with some tips that they could use while going through that process.
I would say rely totally on God, because like I told Dr. Tavares before, when I was given the opportunity to transition or to separate from my family and separate from friends for the 7 years, it was nerve-wracking for me. I was like, oh no, I never lived on my own before. How is this going to work? And I can tell you, God really used me during that time. I got so many leadership roles during that 7 years, when he was able to pour into me. So I would tell anybody, trust God, totally put your faith, your trust totally in God. And I know it's going to be scary, but trust me, he's going to be there for you, because he was there for me. Literally, it was only me and him, literally only me and him. And he done his best work during that time in my chrysalis stage.
I think sometimes a separation is needed, or at least that time with you and God, because there will be times when you have to make certain decisions, and you have, especially as a leader. So if you can't trust the voice of God to hear him to tell you what decision to make, you'll be listening to everybody. So I think, having that time alone with you and God is always a good thing, or is always beneficial to your leadership journey. And so thank you so much for that. Now we have the one and only drum roll, please. Pastor Laquez.
Lord have mercy.
Pastor Laquez, listen. Your chapter.
Oh Lord.
Pain.
Yeah.
How an emerging leader. Listen,
Wow.
anyway, you talk to us about that. And tell us all about your pain completing this chapter.
Woo-wee. Well, good evening, everybody. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Johnson for even with this collaboration. I believe it was potent, and this is the right time even for this. And I'm telling you, what a journey it has been. And when we talk about pain, I can write many stories on pain. But I just started to share a little bit about many times people see a person, but don't understand the grace that they operate in. And many times they become jealous of them. And because they are jealous of them, they don't understand what all they have to deal with, what all is on their table, what all they have to manage, even with the leadership, maybe on a job or leadership in the church or whatever capacity they may be in. They don't understand how they flow in it, and they make it look so easy. They make it look like, man, listen, that girl got it going on. I mean, it's so easy, and she make it so simple, but don't know the pain that they have to deal with, all simply because they've been graced. God has graced them for the assignment. And I believe, even in my chapter, I talked about that being graced for the assignment. And even as prophetess Shirley, Patricia, she spoke about it a little bit, even with that. And also Dr. Les, she talked about even the weight. And I mentioned, I talked about the weight because each of us carry a different weight based on the assignment that God has placed on our life. And even with that weight, you got to know how to carry that weight, or you will succumb to the pressure of that weight. And many times, I'm telling you, it has been a journey. Even with this book, I had to be like, God, you got to help me get through this thing, because it was like every devil in hell was coming out trying to stop this book. And let me share just a little bit. One, my first encounter was I saved the document, and I had it open. I was typing, and I was almost to the end. Listen, the end. Listen. You know, the scripture talks about better is the end of a thing. Man, look here, I was praising God because I was to the end of this, and I was like, thank God. I only had like 3 or 4 more pages to go, and my computer shut down, and all of my information was gone. And talking about pain, I was like, Lord, the devil is a liar. After that, I had the experience of I say now, how I can call it dark now. The deadline is already here, and I hate being behind on deadlines. And I'm like, this is only a plan of the enemy. And anytime the attack is great, anytime the opposition is great, you know that God has something greater involved in what you're doing. So I continued to go. And then what else happened? My computer fell down and crashed. My Apple computer 2019 MacBook Pro, it crashed. And you all know MacBook Pro, they you know. So I was like, God, why hast thou forsaken me? What's going on? What did I do in my life? But even in the midst of that, I still had to go back and push, because I had to rewrite my chapter again. I had to rewrite my chapter. And I hope this is an encouragement to someone. God is even writing your chapter right now. And even though you may feel like you want to give up, even though, because I had all means to give up, I'm like, now you see, I just purchased this MacBook Pro, and you mean the devil can come right? And I was like, God, you got to help me with this. And I called, and God has graced her with this assignment, and has given her the grace to, even with us who had challenges. And she was like, well, Pastor, I know God has something great. He has his hands on this because of all of the obstacles we've been experiencing. So anybody who is emerging as a leader, be assured that even sometimes you would feel like even your deadlines are not being met as a result of it. But in the midst of it, she could have said to me, Pastor Laquez, man, don't worry about it no more. Just go. She said, no. I'm going to wait on that, because obviously there's something that God wants to say and God wants to do through this chapter. So I take my hats off to you, Dr. Johnson. That was twice. I had to rewrite this thing. And because of the grace of God for you, even to help emerging leaders, I believe that even through this chapter of pain, where they can understand as you go through, there are some things that pain is assigned to do. And it will push you towards your destiny or push you away from your destiny. And even we talk about even sometimes when we are in situations and certain character traits, unveiled. Now you be apprehensive as to say, man, listen, buddy, I think I on this run no more. God, I don't think you have set me up for this assignment. But some of us, God has indeed set us up for this time. You've been called to the kingdom for such a time as this. And even in the midst of that, you have to continue to push. And even through that, I had to tell myself, Quez, push, because somebody needs this message. And even sometimes the wife, she say, what happened? And I'm like, I'm getting a brain freeze, nothing coming up. I was like, the thing was already about done. But I saw God hand step in and he moved right in the nick of time. And I was like, just look at the grace and things, the thoughts start to flow back and it came back better. So anything you lose, God has a way of replacing it with something better. And I was like, "Ooh, God, that's a revelation."
That's a preach right there.
I was like, "Thank you, Lord." And at one point, I just, because I had to bathe in prayer for this, because I was like, I have this obstacle and the next obstacle and the next obstacle, persons dying and all of this in the midst of it. And I was like, God, you got to help keep me together in the midst of this one. And so many times the thing that you want to give up is the thing that he wants to use to bring him glory. So you have to continue to push. And I had to make up in my mind, Laquez Williams, you have to push even in the midst of this pain, because there's someone who is going to read this and it is going to help them to navigate through the pain that they're going to experience in leadership. And I was very personal with my pain. I talk about some of my family pain and what we had to go through and what we are still going through, and how even as a leader, you still have to learn to balance. In the midst of it, you still got to balance, because you still have a child, you still have a mother, you still have a father, and they're experiencing what they have to experience whilst managing a mega ministry and a school and your own personal life. So you have the responsibility to continue to push. But in the midst of it, God is faithful. And guess what? I saw the hands of God all through this. And I'm telling you, it blessed me. It blessed me, because when I started to see some of the things, how pain has helped me to become a better person, even in my character, how it refined me and redefined who I am and who God wants me to be. And I'm telling you, it transformed my life. So Doc, man, listen, Doc, I take a gray hair out for you. You've been called for this.
Yes.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Laquez. Listen, when he told me about what he had going on, I was like, you know what? This is really going to be good, because I know, what you had dealt with. Jerisha isn't here, but she wasn't able to be with us tonight. But her whole drive crash. I mean, like, people were just saying all the different things that was going on. And I was like, you know what? This book is going to be so good. But one of the things that really got me with it too is that the fact that no one really knew about it, but we were still experiencing these things. And so it made me to realize, which I already know, but I was really able to see that, sometimes this is why you cannot reveal the vision out there too early or prematurely, because people didn't know. And so you guys were encountering a whole lot of warfare. I was going through stuff myself. So because of some of the warfare that I was dealing with, I was like, you know what? I know y'all could be going through it too, And so that's one of the things sometimes when you talk about leadership, in terms of being attached to people and being able to go through some of your warfare just because of your alliance or, whatever with them. And so that's another thing that people be mindful. Talk about collaborating even with other leaders. And so once I started to hear all the things that was going on, I was like, you know what? I know for sure. If I didn't know before that, I knew that. I was like, you know what? This is definitely an assignment from God. It was just unbelievable, the things that people were actually dealing with. And I really couldn't believe it. And so I was just really grateful that you all pushed through it. I know, I don't know where all the grace came from. I must say it only could be God, because sometimes I could be short of patience, but I really, really had the grace for it. So I'm thankful to God for that. And so, of course, for me, my title was The Rise of Emerging Leader. And so one of the things I talked about was a few things, actually. So I talked about different components in the book. One of them I talked about was, inner struggles, because, as leaders, you all go through inner struggles, whatever they may be, depending on whatever life has thrown at you, where, because sometimes some people have been molested, they've been abused, they've been betrayed, all of these different things. If you don't deal with them, I realize it really affects how all of your relationships. So it affects how you even manage people. It will affect how you manage your home, for people who are leading in the home. And so I try to encourage even though this is a book for emerging leaders, to be honest, the senior leaders could read this too, but I really want people to address those inner power struggles that they have going on, because, you talked about, Pastor Laquez, the pain, and you talked about the jealousy. Well, that only happens because of inner power struggles. So if you're dealing with these insecurities and you can't see your self-worth and, all these other things, it is really going to affect how you respond to other people, because there's no reason to be jealous or envious of anyone, especially God. Everyone came here to this earth with an assignment. It's not everyone's assignment is not the same. Everyone's tribe and people who they will reach are not the same. So there's really no need to feel any type of way. The persons who are willing to, really challenge the status quo, of course, for them, their influence is going to be more because they choose to challenge the status quo. There are some people who are comfortable. Okay, well, I have my home and, my good family, and that's it. They good with that. That's it. You know what I mean? And nothing is wrong with that. But, what I need people to understand is that, deal with your inner power struggles, and whatever level you choose to stay on. I mean, just don't feel some type of way with other people who choose to go ahead and challenge those status quo, or really choose to, go ahead and pursue the things that God is calling them to do. And so that's one of the things I talked about. I also talked about forgiveness. Again, when we talk about the pain of an emerging leader, you have to be able to forgive people, because you will be rejected. You will be betrayed. I mean, these things, it's just going to happen. There's no way that these things could happen to Jesus, who is the ultimate leader, and it don't happen to us. It just doesn't work that way. And, the Bible tells us that no servant is better than master. We have to know that these things are going to happen. And so I thought that was a good component, because, you have to be able to forgive people. There's no way that you could actually go through your leadership journey and not forgive people. But how do you go ahead and forgive those people? So I talked about that, and I also talked about honor. Honor is a big thing. A lot of people don't like to honor people, but you have to be able to, honor people. And for me, I'm big on honoring people. But again, I also talked about how do you honor someone, who may be a good leader, or they might have been a good leader to you, and now they're turning assassin to you or whatever. Like, how do you go ahead and because they still require honoring, because if God said, if he sets up kings and he put them down, we may not like what some of them may be doing, but then again, you still have to honor them. You still have to honor the fact that this is who God is calling them to be. David did that. Saul was trying to kill him, but guess what? He's like, you know what? I'm not even going to touch him. God rule, God rules everything and everyone. And if he have him there, then clearly, it's something that he's trying to do me in terms of my character and so much different things. And so I really talked about a lot of components that, of course, it's not an exhaustive list, but the ones that I believe is key to any emerging leader who is, going through their leadership journey. They may be elevating and whatnot. So I thought, those were good. And then mostly, I think too, again, I talked about overcoming rejection. I talked about rejection. Rejection is a big one. A lot of people don't like to deal with it. But, I try to encourage people to look at it from a positive way. The example that I gave, and that I talked about, if someone decided to purchase a counterfeit Louis Vuitton bag, because whether it's because they didn't have the financial means to do it, or they're trying to, meet a financial goal, does that mean that the Louis Vuitton franchise is going to suffer? No, it's not. They're still going to be making their money again, because they have their tribe and their people that are attached to them, And so I try to encourage people to change their perspective, or even the narrative of the way in which they choose to view rejection. And so that's just some of the thing that some of the components that I had. Of course, there's more, and I'm not going to put all, because I want persons to go ahead and purchase your books. You can purchase from your favorite co-author, or you can go on Amazon and you can purchase your book as well. But this was definitely a great project. I thoroughly enjoyed working with you all. You guys were so great. And you guys just ran with the vision, and and it speaks to you having being able to see, or the ability to see. And I think too, for me, my ability to be able to articulate the vision that God gave to me also as a leader. So I'm truly grateful for you all. I know this isn't going to be the last time that we work together. This is definitely not going to be the last time, because I will be calling on you all for something else. But I'm truly, 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 truly grateful. I don't know if anyone has any more comments, any more feedbacks you want to share a bit more of your leadership journey. You can share what you do now, and the way how you view leadership as well. And then also, I want to say to those who may be watching, for me, leadership is anyone who has influence. It doesn't matter if you have a title or not, because as we notice, we have people who have titles, but they don't have influence. Like, no one will follow them anywhere. So, leadership is definitely, for me, more about influence, more so than title. Leslie?
Me? Right? Okay. Y'all can't hear my background, right? I muted myself. I'm sorry. Where I'm at now, as you know, I'm trying to change this name to doctor, and leadership is something that you don't take a break from. Once you call, I've found that almost every area that I find myself leading, and I think we talk on the podcast about leading from the second seat. So sometimes you're not the leader, you're not the executive leader, the decision maker, but you also have the opportunity to lead from the second seat and influence the leader. So that's the space I'm in right now, serving small, poquito, just a little, based on all that I have on my plate right now. So that's where I'm at. I'm really focusing on what God has called me to do and finishing out this academic work and trying to create some avenues of influence in that area. So that's why this was really, it was really a push for me to do this. Also, even working with some of my professors, I sent one of my professors, because my chapter actually was one of my school assignments, and I sent it to trust me, that was so, all I had was red writing on it. And then I finally told her, like, oh, I published the book chapter. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm glad you made the changes. And so that's the space that I'm in, and I'm really grateful and I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I'm not really doing anything to promote anything, so I would promote you and all of the other authors on what y'all are doing right now. Please, I encourage anyone who's watching to plug in, get connected with Dr. Tavara, and follow the authors. This is a time when we even look at what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. We need to have positive influencers, individuals who will inspire, individuals who would promote, and who would encourage us to walk down the right path. And I just personally believe that all of the authors, you heard it. You got a little snippet tonight. So make sure go out there and purchase the book, so you'll be able to read and purchase from your favorite author. Purchase from Amazon. Go ahead and plug in and purchase. So thank you again, Dr. Tavara, for this opportunity. This was a baby, came from the side of my womb. I don't know where this came from. But I'm so proud and I'm so honored to be a part of this project. So I also encourage other emerging leaders to connect, because I think you're going to do this again. So please do connect with her if she haven't announced it. So I'm sorry if I'm announcing it early. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, this isn't going to be my only leadership book. So definitely. I would definitely say, if anyone, if you decide that you want to be a part of a leadership book, just go ahead and send me a message, and we could definitely have some conversations. But I'm truly, truly grateful for you, Les. And I know this was a push. And of course, doing doctoral work is no joke. So it's a lot of writing. And so I knew that it was a push for you. And I definitely appreciate your push as well as your pour. Definitely. Rashida, yes, let me hear your final words. What you working on? What you want the people let them know? Let them know how they could connect with you.
Once again, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Tavara, for having me on this book journey. I am excited about it, and I'm so honored to be a part of it along with the co-authors. My final thought will be, leadership is a journey. And you mentioned rejection, and disappointments is going to come, but I would like to tell the emerging leaders out there that continue to push, because I know if he could do it for me, he can do it for you. I'm not working on anything right now, basically. I'm just trying to get more involved in my children's ministry at church. So I'm going to push that a bit. So that's my focus. That's my initial focus right now. Since the book is already launched and the book is out, my initial focus is getting children's ministry started back at my church. Pastor LaQuez is my pastor, and Bishop Godfrey Williamson is my bishop. So that's my main focus right now, getting children's ministry back up and running. And that's about it.
Sounds good. I know Pastor LaQuez is definitely excited to hear you say that.
Oh, that's his name.
I know he was so excited, but it was definitely a blessing to have you on, Rashida. She is such Rashida's such a sweetheart. You know, any opportunity, if I say, hey, Rashida, I have this opportunity, and she's ready to run. And that's one of the things I love about her. She's always ready to run. She's excited. Man, listen, I just love her. Prophetess Patricia, any final words? What are you working on? Of course, what you could share. And just how people can stay connected with you.
I am on every social media, Instagram, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. You can just Google my name, you'll find me. I'm always working on something, but what I can release is I have another book coming out, Position to Battle. It's a book on prayer decrees, and that should be out before March 1st. And I'm excited about that. And I also started the Power and Purpose show on the Woman Going Warrior Network. I started that 2 weeks ago. And it's a show that talks about leadership. And the topic is leadership DNA. So I would just invite anybody to join on Facebook, YouTube, Power and Purpose show with Patricia Shirley.
Awesome. Congratulations. Pastor LaQuez, what do you have going on? Any final words for us?
Yes, well, I mean, for me, the last thing I want to say, one of my favorite Psalms is Psalms 51 and 10. Mm-hmm. Like David said, Lord created me a clean heart and renew the right spirit in me. Mm-hmm. Listen, I believe that's one of the most powerful scriptures, especially for an emerging leader, because when pain comes, you got to ask God to continuously create in you a clean heart and renew the right spirit, because there's sometimes some spirit's going to come that's not of God, and you're going to need to have the right spirit when it comes to serving God's people. So I challenge you tonight. Make sure that's one of the things that I constantly and I always petition God on a daily basis. God, continue to take out anything that's not like you so that you can get the glory out of my life. So even with this too, I mentioned it, and tonight I want to say we're getting ready. Thank God, as Rashida said, with the children's ministry. We're so excited about that. We have for our men in the city of Grand Bahama, we are inviting all of the men. It was on the news tonight, and we have a mandate on Sunday. I made a challenge for every Sunday in March. We're going to emphasize, bring emphasis to the role of the man in the home. So we're doing that for the whole month of March. So we want to invite all of the men to come out. If you're in the Bahamas or in Grand Bahama, we would invite you to do that, or watch this on our Facebook page, which is Jubilee Cathedral, or YouTube. Also, too, I had the team last night. We had a meeting last night, and I want to release it on here. Dr. Johnson, we'll be honoring Dr. Johnson in July 1st for the Rising Voice. We are excited about that. We're excited about that.
Yes.
So we are so excited. It's a part of Bishop's legacy, because he said he wants to make sure highlight a lot of the rising voices also in the city and in the northern Bahamas. So we're going to do that. And also Rashida Rule, she will be a part of that as well. She isn't aware, but hey, now you know. I let the cat out the bag very early. We are excited about it. We are excited about it, what God is doing in your lives, and just so happy towards what God is doing. So and he know that your hearts are pure. So I'm so excited, and definitely the best is yet to come. So we're looking forward to a great season. And we have some other things we're doing at Sunland, our school. We're getting ready to change the name to Jubilee Christian Academy. And also, so God is doing some wonderful things. Then my father, thank God, he is just had an amazing testimony. He wasn't supposed to be here, but God spared his life. And he said, son, there's one thing I want you to do. He said, I want you to exceed everything I've done.
My God.
So there's not even a level of jealousy. Now, even with that, he chastises me, he corrects me, and he said, but even more, I'm not jealous of you because I want to see you exceed the work that I've done. And if you keep the principles of God as a priority in your life, you'll see the hand of God in your life. So, Doc, thank you so much. Prophetess, it's been such a pleasure. And Sheeta and Dr. Les and the other authors, I believe they are great people to follow as well. So continue to do just that. May God bless you.
Pastor McWesley, thank you so much. I mean, I don't like to, I can't cry on Facebook, so I got to keep myself together. But thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, this was a pleasure. This was a blessing. Of course, for you guys who are watching, you know, I always have something going on. I do have some things dropping. I'm not going to say it just yet, but I will say, look out at a Sunday or Monday. I will be dropping it, but I will say this: if you want to be a part of it, you could always inbox me, message me, let me know. I mean, we'll be more than glad to have you to be a part of this next initiative that's going to be dropping real soon, either Sunday or Monday. So, of course, just continue to follow me on all of my social media platforms. Continue to pray for me. Continue to pray for my co-authors as we continue to go forward and lead. We will be on here tomorrow. We have speakers, Prophetess Delarice Tarani. I love her. I love her. I love her. She's also my coach, for those who don't know. And then we have Apostle Ron Tolliver, who has forwarded the book, and he's so revelatory. You will definitely want to get your pens and your papers out. Of course, he's a senior leader, and he's big on mentoring or coaching, whether you're a senior leader or emerging leaders. And so, everyone, again, thank you so much to my co-authors. I can't say this enough how much I love y'all. Y'all have been very supportive. You've been very encouraging. We had some really great conversations, and I still look forward to more about conversations. And so, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Blessings, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. And be sure to get your copy of the latest publication, Emerging Leaders: Strategies to Navigate Your Leadership Journey. Looking to grow your business, publish a book, create media content for your next event? Emergence Media Group has you covered. For all of your publishing, graphics, media design needs, call 242-814-4142. That's Emergence Media Group.